Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Switched On of 2019. So we were actually planning to do an episode last week, but we were kind of holding off to see if there was a Nintendo Direct, because there were a ton of rumors about that. We're still waiting on that.
Greatly exaggerated.
What's that?
Greatly exaggerated rumor.
Yeah, greatly exaggerated. That's the rumor mill for you. But we still have plenty to talk about anyway, so we decided to do an episode this week. I'm your host, Ben Lamoureux, and I'm joined by two fantastic returning guests. Welcome back, Alex.
It's good to be with you in the future.
Yes. And welcome back, Mark.
I'm back by unpopular demand.
Yay. Unpopularity.
You guys having a good 2019 so far?
Oh yeah, it's been pretty good. I'm getting major progress done in my quest to become an author. So hopefully later this year I'll become, J.K. Rowling level famous. If not, maybe Stephanie Meyer would be good enough.
Yeah, then we won't be able to afford you for this podcast anymore. You'll be too big and famous for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even meet him by multiplying the salary by 10 because
10 times
he's
0.
He's just that good. So as usual, we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest Nintendo stories from the past few weeks, and then a little bit later we'll get into our discussion segment. So since it's a new year, we decided to look back on 2018 and talk about some of our favorite games from the past year, and then after that we're going to look forward to some of the titles coming out in 2019 and talk a little bit about our hopes and expectations for the current year. Alright, let's dig in. So, in a recent view with Nikkei, am I pronouncing that right? I feel like I got a weird accent. Nikkei.
Nikkei. Sort
Nintendo...
of a weird pause in the double Ks. So that's probably where
you know a little Japanese. I know none.
I think it's pronounced Yanni.
Yes. So, speaking with Yanni or Laurel or whatever we want to call them, Nintendo's president, Shuntaro Furukawa, was talking about the possibility of far off in the future, if sort of the market demands it, Nintendo could shift away from home consoles. What do you guys think about that?
I'm kind of nervous about that. Like, as much as I do like the idea of, like, maybe Nintendo being able to branch out and finally be able to re-release their backlog and us being able to easily find stuff they've had in the blanking Disney vault for the past 80 years. I don't know, because the Japanese market is very Sony and Nintendo heavy, because Microsoft is just such a non-entity over there.
Right.
That I wonder that if, like, Nintendo drops out, Sony's going to have a monopoly.
I mean, assuming that Sony continues to release home consoles in Japan, right?
And this is assuming that the Soldier game doesn't become big over there.
Yeah, that could definitely happen if they didn't just make it completely illegal. Yeah. So I personally have like two opinions about this, or I guess maybe there's two ways that you could take this. One is you could take this as maybe Nintendo is going to just get out of the games business entirely, or at least out of the like dedicated platform business entirely, not just home consoles, but consoles writ large. I think some people are jumping to that sensationalist conclusion because they see Nintendo making smartphone games and theme park attractions and thinking, oh, well, those aren't console games, so, Nintendo's getting away from consoles.
Right.
Now, pardon me for being a butthead, but, like, they've made, like, 4 app games based off their many, 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 many properties. I think people are exaggerating that fear.
Yeah, they have. They certainly don't have the revenue streams to use that.
Yeah, like if there was a Mario Candy Crush, we should be worried, but there's not.
Well, I'd say even if there was, like, Nintendo has done all kinds of things in their 130-year history, many of which are not video games. And so the fact that they would say maybe we won't be doing video game consoles in the future is not surprising.
Uh-oh.
They are not essentially a gaming company. They are essentially a company that's done a lot of different things over the years, all of which are entertainment focused.
I hope they don't go back to Hanafuda.
Yeah, like they don't have to do any particular kind of entertainment. They just have to do what they can find a niche for. Anyway, the other stance I could see is potentially Furukawa might be saying that in the future Nintendo might take a more open stance on where Nintendo games can be played, not just on home consoles, but perhaps on a computer, on a TV,
right,
on a phone, on any device that you can connect a video game controller to. Your microwave, maybe, in the future.
My Apple Watch.
And
well, you probably actually can
now,
play that stuff.
You could. Who knows? They now have this classic game subscription service, so that's sort of an avenue for them to have a relationship with you that doesn't necessarily have to even involve you buying software for a platform that they've made.
Right.
They could have an emulator that works on PCs, and you just download all that stuff on PCs.
And they've actually, filed copyrights for some like emulator and handheld related stuff for like cell phones, like a device that would turn your phone into a Game Boy, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And if they wanted to keep selling hardware in some fashion, you can still even get the authentic Nintendo hardware experience by using like an official Bluetooth controller or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Which already kind of exists. You already have an NES controller that works wirelessly on Switch. So just copy-paste that for all their platforms.
I'm going to keep using my GameCube controller until the day I die. That's what I'm looking for.
Hook your adapter
stick that into like my cyborg body and then play Smash Brothers on myself.
Your adapter has USB, right? So like that should work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think people are, overblowing this. This is definitely a sort of hypothetical in the future kind of scenario. But, in the more short term, Nintendo has already sort of gotten away from the home console, right? Like, that's what Switch is. It's a handheld that you can also plug into your TV to sort of turn it into a makeshift home console. And, it's off to the most successful start that any Nintendo platform has ever had. And then, you think back to years ago before we knew it was called Switch, when it was just the mysterious NX. And Satoru Iwata said a couple times that he sort of envisioned the future of Nintendo as a family of devices connected by like a single platform. So, maybe that's sort of what he's hinting at is, okay, you don't have to buy the Nintendo home console, right? There could be a few different devices like, like a handheld, a hybrid, a home console, or like you were talking, Alex, maybe they'll open it up to PC, again, a long time in the future. Like I look at what Microsoft is doing, preparing for the next generation. They've invested all this money in cloud tech, and their big thing is like, in the next generation, yes, there will be a dedicated Xbox you can go out and buy. But if you want, instead, you can just sort of upgrade your PC to, Xbox 2 specs or whatever they're going to call it, and play Xbox games on that. Or you can do it on your tablet, and, the streaming software will do it so that most of the heavy lifting is handled elsewhere, and your tablet's just kind of like a screen that then gets the game. So Nintendo's dabbled with that a little bit, too. They've taken a few games that can't quite run on Switch, like Resident Evil 7, and then in Japan they've released them as cloud versions, where you pay a fee, and then it does most of the processing elsewhere, and your Switch is just kind of like the screen that you play Resident Evil 7 on. So it's been very much baby steps in that direction, but it's possible. Furukawa's maybe being a little more forward-thinking than some of the more traditional presidents, and maybe he's just looking at the way the market's shifting and saying maybe Nintendo as a service could eventually be the way of the future.
Wow, Nintendo actually listened to the people they're marketing towards. Imagine that. This is not the Nintendo of my youth, let me tell you.
Ben, you said something that I thought was interesting. You said that maybe they're already shifting away from home consoles, and we see that with Switch, and I think that's partly true, because if you think of a home console, the defining thing for a home console is that it attaches to a TV, and that's how you play your games. Or to a monitor, I guess, which could be a TV. And they're already in a state where that's not the only way you can play the game.
Yeah, for sure. So in that same interview, Furukawa also discussed his management style. And he basically said he kind of likes to take a hands-off approach and let developers, people who know how games work, let them do their own thing. And then the interviewer asked, so, are you totally hands-off? And he said, no, you have to balance freedom and discipline. And he said he sort of sees his job as facilitating an environment where people can demonstrate their abilities.
And I'm really excited about that. And like Furukawa seems to be a pretty darn good president. Not that I'm comparing him to anyone, but I'm comparing him to others. Because like last time I was on Switched On, we talked about Paper Mario and how Paper Mario got kind of busted in the kneecap because of like meddling from the upper management. And I think that Furukawa is really helping the game developers and the storytellers and the et cetera, just like actually be able to make something without being too, what's the word I'm looking for?
Designed by committee.
Yeah, designed by committee. Focus tested.
Yes.
Hiss. Boo. Shame.
Yeah, on Switch, I feel like a lot of games have sort of really captured the spirit of, like, the Nintendo we fell in love with in the 90s, but then, refreshed for a modern generation with some modern sensibilities.
Yeah.
But, of course, a lot of that would have started before
Odyssey,
Furukawa as
would
well.
not have happened on the Wii.
Sorry, what was that?
Breath of the Wild and Odyssey, that stuff would not have happened on the Wii U.
Yeah. Well, Breath of the Wild sort of did, but
well,
barely ran.
I mean, yeah.
Very, very late life Wii U.
The way it turned out was very much a response to the way Wii U turned out. So
yeah.
It seems to me anyway. One thing that I sort of find interesting about the most recent couple presidents, like Kimishima and Furukawa, is I think a lot of us who grew up with Nintendo and sort of came of age around the time GameCube and Wii and Wii U were out, were kind of spoiled during the Iwata days by someone who was a developer and also a businessman. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for a lot of us to remember that for most of Nintendo's time in video games, like prior to that, they were not run by a person who had any software development experience. They were run by, what's his name? Yamauchi. And so he was a very like business savvy person who he knew about games, but was not like a game maker, was not really a game player.
Sure.
So I'm curious to see what impact the Furukawa's influence has on the sort of creative side of Nintendo's like development pipeline. We were talking about how Breath of the Wild is something that would not really have happened on Wii U. And I think sort of one of the distinguishing characteristics of Breath of the Wild is very clearly a response to market realities that existed in the mid-2010s. Not just a game that Aonuma dreamed up and decided that was the creative direction he wanted to go. Like, it was very much a mixture of both of those. And I wonder, now that we have like businessmen at the helm of Nintendo, how much more we'll see market realities play into the kinds of games that they choose to make.
Microtransactions.
Yeah, I hope it's not so much a business model thing, like a business model change. I hope it's more a like, we know there's demand for this kind of game, and so we're going to make it. I hope that's the influence that he has.
Yeah, I don't need to see Mario flossing.
Right.
Well, now I can't unsee it. So, speaking of games and development teams in the works, Retro Studios, they exist still, I think, somewhere.
Oh, they're still
sure?
putting Funky Kong into old games?
Yes.
I was going to say, supposedly, yeah, that's their big claim to fame over the last 5 years or whatever.
So, yeah, they haven't really said anything publicly since around the time Tropical Freeze launched. They've been pretty quiet since then. But that whole time, they've been just like, picking up extra developers here and there. But in the last month or so, especially, I happened to just notice I'm subscribed on Twitter to like an account that just tweets out job listings at Nintendo. And there's been like 5 or 6 of them for Retro Studios in the last month. So they're looking for a VFX artist and a physics engineer and an art director and a technical artist and a graphics engineer. And like for some of these, they're like I think for the art director job, they were looking for someone with like 10 plus years of experience. So they're really beefing up. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like if you're just now hiring an art director, does that like indicate that like you're starting something new, or is it possible that an old project just needed new leadership, or what?
Yeah, it's hard to say what this means without knowing what their turnover has been like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would hope they're hiring because they're in a phase where they're ramping up development on multiple projects, and that's why they need more people. But they could also be hiring more people because they keep bleeding talent that they need to replace, and you can't tell what the situation is because Retro Studios is not that transparent
Very
about
secretive.
those sorts of things. Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4 isn't coming out until 2025, right?
I mean, I think that one is actually probably in the near future, but that's not... that won't be Retro. Officially,
really?
It's just Kensuke Tanabe and a team at Nintendo working on it, but we've heard pretty reliable reports.
Did they actually say a team at Nintendo, or did they just say a team?
I'm actually not sure. I think I remember him saying like he had chosen some people from Nintendo, but what we've heard from reports is that Bandai Namco is handling the majority of the development.
Egg on my face, you can cut that.
Yeah, there was a there was a Bandai, I want to say he was something with graphics. I don't remember off the top of my head what his job was, but he put on his LinkedIn that he was working on a Switch-exclusive first-person shooter adventure game where he had to make regular pitches to Nintendo. And then around the same time, there were also a bunch of reports that some Bandai people were being pulled off of their teams to go work on an exciting, famous IP. So, yeah. And then I think it was Eurogamer came forward and said, yeah, it's Metroid. We've heard from sources it's Metroid.
Okay, I was going to say, so Super Monkey Ball.
Yeah.
No, they're actually making Metroid Prime Pinball, too. Sorry. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, hard to say what this means.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we see something concrete sometime in the next, year.
Funky Kong DLC for Smash Brothers.
Yep, it'll happen.
5 years spent on that.
Mm-hmm. Totally worth it. Yeah. Great investment. Yeah. So if you remember our news segment from the last episode, you know that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is just off to an absolutely crazy start pretty much everywhere. And so the latest numbers from Japan show that it's still selling at a phenomenal pace. It actually moved another 500,000 copies after Christmas, which is pretty nuts because, usually you see sales really start to spike up in mid-November through December. Then by the end of the year, they're kind of tapering off. But it sold another 250,000 copies in the first week of January. So that to me is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that was a sort of a story last year too that flew under the radar. Was Nintendo's games sold really, really well in the first quarter of 2018, surprisingly well. I don't think they've ever had tail sales after a holiday that are that good for core franchises like Mario and Zelda. Mm-hmm. Mario and Zelda, I think, both sold more than 1 million copies just in that quarter.
Yeah, and then
which is insane.
In some places, I believe in the UK, Mario Kart actually sold more copies in 2018 than 2017. Which is just insane. Man, it's hard to think about that.
You have to imagine, or you have to think that the supply constraints that might have plagued 2017 in the UK might have had something to do with that.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. Dang Brexit.
Yeah. But I also heard those were not as severe in Europe, so maybe I'm just shooting out misinformation.
Fake news, Alex.
Fake news. Thanks.
So,
fake Nintendo news, that's what you come to this podcast for.
Yes.
Metroid Prime 4 is developed by Retro Studios, guys.
So we actually also just got another update on Smash sales 5 minutes ago. It went out on Twitter while we were preparing for this podcast. So
breaking news, everyone. This just in.
By the time we publish this, it will no longer be breaking news, but it is currently breaking news.
Darn it.
So there's this Japanese analyst that we follow, Dr. Serkan Toto, and he tweeted out that Smash Bros., according to Shintaro Furukawa, sold over 5 million copies in its first week. And obviously, like we said, all these games have had long tails, so presumably it continued selling well throughout all of December and into January. I mean, we know it's continued to sell well in January based on Japan's sales, but it sounds like globally it's doing really well.
Yeah, I'll share some context with listeners that we talked about before the show. But 5 million globally in week 1 for Smash Ultimate. If you look at the previous best-selling game in the series, Smash Bros. Brawl, it only shipped 4.78?
I think 8.
Fewer than 5 million units in its entire first month on sale. So the month of March 2008.
Has it been that
So that
long?
means that this game is just completely going to blow Brawl out of the water.
Yeah, it really seems that way so far.
That is such a good sign for the future of the franchise, because everyone always is kind of worried about this Smash Bros. Is the last one, but from the looks of it, this is not going to be the last one. And I hope to God that we get a season 2 DLC pass, because I hate DLC, but it's Smash Brothers, so I'll bite the bullet and get 18 different seasons of DLC.
Yeah, and
Smash Bros.
It seems like that would be a lighter workload on Sakurai too, instead of just having him jump on the next full project immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs a game like this where they can just keep adding to it little by little over time and not completely kill themselves for 2 or 3 years.
Assuming it doesn't Jenga itself and he, gets an overworkload trying to balance everything.
Yeah.
But we're not going to think about that. We're going to be happy.
Yeah.
We're going to think about all these characters that could be added to this wonderful game that everyone loves.
I thought I'd read something that he was a little more hands-off with the balancing this time.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah, that's true.
I'm misremembering that.
Yeah, he said that he's got other people handling a lot of the balancing, and also that he's reduced his workload to like only 10 hours a day, 6 days a week or something. So.
Oh my god.
That's not healthy. Get some sleep, Sakurai.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
10 hours.
like apparently significantly less than his normal workload. But
That was my workload when I worked for a pyramid scheme. He's working for Nintendo's a pyramid scheme.
apparently.
Yeah, that's why they keep adding characters to Smash Bros. They're trying to build out their pyramid scheme network.
Exactly. Every single one of the Smash Bros. Characters can then sell to 5 more.
They're gonna come to your house. Mario's gonna be selling Avon products to you.
And then you get turned into a spirit, and you have no agency.
The deepest lore. So, on a related note, Switch itself is also selling extremely well, thanks to Smash and, obviously, like Pokemon and a few other games. So, according to the latest sales data, it is, I think, about 700,000 units short now of catching up to PS4 sales in Japan. Which, that might seem like a long way to go still, but PS4 had a 3-year head start. So the fact that it's already it's at like 7 million, and I think PS4 is at like 7.7. So it's a few months from now probably it will pass up PS4.
And Animal Crossing still hasn't even come out. So.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge one. And yeah, if it gets like an original Monster Hunter too, that would be a huge one, especially in Japan. And it's got Yokai Watch is coming out pretty soon, so. But we'll get into the 2019 lineup a little bit later here. But yeah, it's doing extremely well in its home country and abroad.
Well, I don't know. There's still some good PS4 games to come out that'll help out. Like,
maybe The Last of Us 2? Maybe.
Yeah, everyone's looking forward to Death Stranding coming out 2030.
Hey, now he said he's aiming for 2020. Let's have faith.
That's not even this year. Ugh.
So, you may have heard that Nintendo had a pretty lengthy lawsuit going last year against a go-kart company in Japan. They were charging people money for like a real-life Mario Kart experience where you like dress up and ride around in a replica kart. And, they were doing this without Nintendo's permission. So, that went about as well as you would expect. It took them like a year to get the suit settled. Like, they lost it the first time and they had to appeal, but eventually they were ordered to pay a bunch of money and stop using Nintendo imagery. And so they started printing the phrase "unrelated to Nintendo" on their carts in English. And then on the other side of the cart, they had a similar Japanese phrase, but it translates directly to "Nintendo is irrelevant," apparently. So I don't know if that's a real intentional dig, or if it is just kind of like an awkward translation of what's supposed to be the same phrase. But either way, they're currently trying to trademark both of those phrases.
Oh, I hope they sell T-shirts. I would wear that in a heartbeat. Did any of you ever see Nathan For You? Because there was a sketch.
A few episodes.
The dumb Starbucks one, where he made a Starbucks, like opened a Starbucks franchise illegally, but called it Dumb Starbucks, so he could legally call it a parody.
Uh-huh.
That's what's happening right here.
Oh, that's classic.
Yeah. No, I love this though. Like, my brother-in-law has tickets to a Nintendo Mario Kart pop-up sometime soon. So hopefully he doesn't lose out on his chance to do that, and Nintendo puts the banhammer on that before it comes over here. But this is exciting. I love drama. I love messiness, and I love lawsuits, and I really, really want to see this blow up.
Yeah, I don't know much about trademark law, but I have a hard time believing that a company that just lost a lawsuit to Nintendo over copyright is going to be able to trademark phrases that include the word Nintendo. That
they're going to die.
Like
they're going to explode. That's what's going to happen.
This kind of reminds me of the obnoxious jabs I've been seeing lately between cable companies and big TV networks, as the TV networks like tell the cable companies like, no, you can't, like, well, we're going to make you pay more for our programming. And then they start just like dishing on each other in their advertising.
Yeah.
And this seems kind of like the Japanese cultural equivalent of that.
They just do it at the trademark office.
Yeah.
They're very bureaucratic in their crap talking.
And their tacky crap talking.
Yes.
Nintendo is irrelevant. Iconic.
All right, so next story is that data miners have been digging through Nintendo Switch Online and they discovered the names of 22 Super Nintendo games. And then they also discovered some files that they believe are like code names for emulators. Like one of them correlates to the NES Classic and one to the SNES Classic. And there's 2 more. So they've speculated that either more classic consoles are on the way, which Reggie Fils-Aimé has denied repeatedly, or they think maybe it's just going to be like Switch emulation, like an N64 app or a GBA app or something like that.
This better be true, because I don't have Switch Online yet, because I have no reason to, because it's not good for Smash Brothers, and like the NES titles don't really appeal to me. But if they actually put in SNES games and then eventually Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Advance games, then I'm going to have reason to actually get it. And I'm looking forward to this, because a lot of the games that they data mined are good darn games. Like if Kirby's Dream Course and Kirby's Dream Land 3, Link to the Past, like that's stuff that would motivate me to spend $20 a year to actually be able to play stuff online, instead of just like a whittled down version of Zelda 1.
Yeah, I've said on like past podcasts that like I really expect them to just keep adding platforms at a pretty steady pace, especially given that a lot of the emulation work is done already. And so, if these games are already packed into the data somewhere, I hope that means they're coming soon.
Yeah.
I'm especially excited because there's some pretty big names in the list besides the usual suspects like Mario World and Link to the Past. You've got Mario All-Stars, which they've only ported once, I think, since it was released to Wii. You've got Yoshi's Island again, which is a game that hadn't really been ported to a console outside of SNES Classic. You've got Breath of Fire 2, and even Star Fox 2, which is previously an SNES Classic exclusive.
Yeah, that one was kind of surprising to me to see.
Yeah. I don't know when these games are going to drop, but I'm personally hoping they start to appear in like the March-April timeframe. That's about 6 months after the launch of the service.
They're going to come around the time that Death Stranding comes out.
I think March would make a lot of sense, too, just to sort of get them in there before the end of the fiscal year on March 31st.
Yeah,
maybe get a few extra people to sign up for the service.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if they announce a Nintendo Direct tomorrow and they say this stuff is coming out in a month, like, ugh.
We'll have to post this ASAP.
Yeah. Quick. Chop down everything and just post it. Post it live. We're going live, everyone. We're going live.
Start uploading it before we finish recording.
Well, if there's anything we know about Nintendo Directs, they completely ruin all of our plans.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I'm still bitter about the fact that they never give more than like 24 hours heads up for that. Like it's not as bad now that I mostly work from home, but like when I was like working full time and also trying to cover Nintendo news, it would just be the worst thing. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, tomorrow 9 a.m. be there."
Well, not to sound like a 5-year-old, but like if they made me wait a week instead of a day for this stuff, I don't think I could survive. Like I can barely handle like 24 hours notice. I need 1 hour.
People can't
notice.
even handle
like,
the possibility. They can't even handle the possibility of a Nintendo Direct. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. People are going nuts all over Twitter. They have been for like 2 weeks straight now.
It's Chinese water torture. We get like a hint at maybe something, but no, it's just some rando from Brazil saying, "Hey, guess what? My uncle works for Nintendo. There's Direct tomorrow."
Well, hey guys, if you want Nintendo to be desperate enough to talk to you, why you need to quit buying so much Smash Bros. Just kidding. Don't do that. Smash Bros is great.
It is. It's very great.
I just want my Direct, guys. I just want my Direct.
All right, so our last story for the news segment is that GDQ, Games Done Quick, just wrapped up. They actually do this twice a year. It's where basically a lot of the most talented speedrunners from around the world get together, and it's just 24/7, literally, a week straight around the clock of just competition. So it's either people, racing against the clock trying to set records, or racing against each other in the same game, or completing challenges, or doing glitch showcases. A lot of fun. And the whole time they're doing it, they're taking donations for charity. So this time, they do it twice a year, so they do it in like January and June, and the January one is usually for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. And then in June or July, when they do it again, it's for Doctors Without Borders. So they just wrapped up a few days ago, and they actually set a brand new record. Let me pull up the number here. They raised $2,394,668 for charity.
Oh, wow.
Holy crap.
Yep. It's just one of my favorite times of year in the gaming industry. Like it's great content to just sit down and watch like the fastest Metroid players in the world or the fastest Celeste players in the world, just to see them, showing how these games can be played at a high level while just doing something amazing, honestly, for a great cause.
And it's also great to see just like speedrunners who don't like give up the second they fail at a speedrunning technique.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, what was it? It was a Rondo of Blood speed run where a guy was like, "Oops, I should have had that other weapon. Oh well." Because most of the time when you see that stuff, they kind of rage quit, throw the controller across the room. And I also love seeing these glitches that I just couldn't even like fathom modern games having. Like I remember last time I watched it, it was Metroid 2, the remake one. Okay. And the guy was like trying to do a glitch where he was going on and off a platform warp thing, and then that would take him off the map. And that took him like maybe 10 minutes to get it right, but it was still like fascinating to see him like just do this glitch on a game you'd think wouldn't have that stuff.
Yeah, for some of those games, they really got to just poke around for a long, long time. Like, I watched a Fusion run, Metroid Fusion, and they had thought that game was pretty close to as optimized as it could be. And then I guess pretty recently, like I want to say a few months ago or something, they have a Discord where they all get together and share tricks. And someone just kind of popped into the Discord. Actually, yeah, it was April 1st. That's what it was, because they thought it was a joke. This guy pops into the Discord and is like, "Hey, found a way to shave 30 minutes off Metroid Fusion time." Everyone was like, "What?" But yeah, it's just this really elaborate glitch he discovered where you could, clip through a wall or something and skip, 3 sections of the game and 4 bosses. And yeah, you just get to, 2/3 of the way through the game and then just skip right to the last boss. And this is something that went undiscovered for over a decade.
Video games are amazing.
Video games are amazing, but this is where I get to sort of show my old man colors and say that I normally don't really care about streaming, but I will get up out of my old man chair and stop shaking my fist at the kids on my lawn to say that that's really impressive that they raised that much money and that they're showcasing those kinds of interesting tricks to playing these games.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that about wraps it up for the recent Nintendo news. So now we're going to move on to our discussion segment. With 2018 in the rearview mirror, I thought it would be fun for us all to take a look ahead at Nintendo's 2019 lineup and just sort of go over what we're excited for. But first, let's go ahead and just take some time to appreciate our favorite games from 2018. Do either of you guys want to start with just like a favorite game or two on Nintendo?
Fallout 76.
Yes, that's the best Nintendo game of all time.
The experience is much, much better on Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah, because you can't play it, and that's the joke. But yeah, I didn't play too many games this year because I was still playing games from 2017. But Smash Brothers, I know that's like a cheap answer because it's the best game in the universe, and it's like, oh, what's your favorite thing to do? Breathe, duh. But Smash Brothers is what's amazing, and I love it so much.
So for me, I played a ton of games this year, but there were still a couple that really stood out to me. The first one is, that's what happens when I'm not trying to write a novel or whatever it is that you're writing.
Yeah.
Anyway, instead I work for the gritty corporate world. My favorite game this year was Hollow Knight. Far and away my game of the year in 2019. I think it might actually be my favorite Switch game. Better than Breath of the Wild.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's controversial. Yeah. Anyway, I actually bought Hollow Knight on a recommendation from a buddy of mine as a game to potentially chip away at while I was on vacation over the summer in June. So, conveniently right after E3 when it dropped. And it turns out that instead of playing Hollow Knight on that trip, I actually played another Metroidvania called Dandara, which I also highly recommend. And I didn't even get to Hollow Knight till the flight home, but then once I was on that flight home, I was hooked for like a month. Hollow Knight kind of nails that perfect balance between a charming art style and characters, an eerie environment, and a really, really incredible soundtrack. Love the soundtrack for Hollow Knight. It has a really sprawling Metroid-esque type world that feels like it can never really run out of secret nooks and crannies to discover, sometimes that hide even entirely new areas that you didn't think were there. Can't overstate how much bigger this game was than I expected when I started. And as you explore that world, you gain a lot of really cool traversal abilities and fight a lot of really tough monsters, probably one of the toughest games I've played, and it's got about 20 really tough bosses. Just really love this game from start to finish. Really dig the atmosphere, really dig the character of it, really dug the whole experience of playing it.
Dig Doug.
And it's $15.
Yeah, so I didn't put it on my list just because I haven't beat it yet. When I first got it, I was like you, where I dove into it and played a whole bunch of it. And then I had a trip. I had to go to Canada for EGLX, which is the convention that our parent company, Enthusiast Gaming, hosts. So I was really busy all that week, and didn't have any free time really to play Hollow Knight, or the little free time I had. I was too tired to. I'd lay in bed and turn my Switch on and just couldn't keep my eyes open. And then once I got back, my life just got kind of busy. I had to move to a new house, and then after that, Smash dropped and Pokemon dropped and all that. So I haven't played Hollow Knight in a couple months, but I've been really itching to just get back to it. And I'm a little nervous that my muscle memory is going to be gone. I'm going to forget what does what. But I was making pretty good progress in it. I had a lot of different attacks and special abilities, and I'd been to quite a few regions and stuff. So I was very, very much enjoying it, and it's definitely one I'm going to get back to soon.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll just find some boss that curb stomps you, and then you'll just have to get good again.
Yeah, exactly. When I stopped, it wasn't like I didn't know where I was going next. I had 4 potential ways I could go next, and 3 of them were tough bosses that I had died at a couple times, and I was like, maybe I'll come back with a little more equipment, try again, kind of thing. So eventually I'll have to face one of them down. So, but yeah, so for most of the year, Nintendo didn't really have a whole lot of big first-party releases. There was let's see, Tennis Aces was this year, right?
Yeah, that was this year, as was Mario.
This past June.
Party,
yeah.
Super Mario Party.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were good. They were decent.
And then there was the port of Captain Toad, which obviously, Captain Toad's one of my all-time favorites. Right? But I'm not going to give Game of the Year to just a port, obviously. So So for most of the year, my favorite Switch game was also an indie, like you, Alex. It was Celeste. So, nice. Like I talked about, that was probably my favorite game to watch at GDQ this year. Watching the speedrunners just tear that apart. It's cool to see a game that I died in 2,000 times on my first playthrough, and to see someone else get through it at world record pace and die maybe 20 times. But yeah, it's just excellent soundtrack, very nice, colorful, sort of retro art style. The controls are really simple. All you have is walk around, dash, jump, and climb the wall. Those are your only button presses. But you can do so much with them because of the way the game handles momentum and chaining your jumps across platforms that fling you and that kind of thing. So it's every room is a challenging puzzle, and sometimes frustratingly challenging, Meat Boy levels of challenging. But it's always really, really short rooms, and if you can get through them, get to the end, it's this big sigh of relief, and you feel like you've accomplished something. It's all right, and now let's do that again.
Oh no!
And yeah, it just keeps going. It's a big game, lots of challenge. I mean, not huge. You can get through it in a few hours, but then you unlock harder versions of every level called the B-sides, and then if you beat all of those, you unlock even harder versions called the C-sides. So just ton of content to it. So yeah, I'm not great at a lot of platformers like that. I can do the sort of Metroidvania-style action platformers where it's a lot more about exploring than jumping around on things with precision. But, when it comes to, the Meat Boys, the Super Meat Boy style, just, super hard platformers, normally I'm not into. I'm going to get frustrated, I'm going to quit. It's not going to happen. But Celeste was so good that I never wanted to quit at any point. No matter how frustrated I was, I'm going to die 50 more times, and then I'm going to feel so good when I beat this stage. You just wait. So that really, hooked me more than any game in 2018, I would say. But
nice.
For Nintendo games proper, towards the end of the year, after being quiet most of the year, Nintendo had that just big drop at the end of the year where they launched Mario Party, they launched Pokemon, they launched Smash. And so since then, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee has definitely been dominating my Switch. I'm pretty sure I've put over 200 hours into it already. So,
I think I just saw you pass up 200 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, I beat the game pretty quickly, and then The first time we talked about it in the podcast, I said something about how I was interested in like the competitive metagame and like going on Smogon, which just lets you build a team online, so you don't have to put in all the work. And I said something along the lines of, because there's no way I'll have the time to actually build like a competitive, perfect IV, perfect EV team in the game. Yeah, no, I did that within like 2 weeks of getting the game, and I've just kept going. And I've been shiny hunting. I have over 20 shinies.
It's super hard in Let's Go now.
Yeah, like you can level up much faster than before, and you can it's easier to get good IVs and then to perfect your bad IVs if you have some bad ones. Like they've just made it very, very user friendly to build a good team.
There's a competitive scene in Let's Go.
Yeah, so
you can't have held items.
It's still just sort of emerging. Well, Gen 1 didn't have held items either, and you can still go on Smogon and build the Gen 1 team with only Gen 1 Pokemon and rules, and like there's probably not that many people playing, but if you wait long enough, you'll find a match.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there's two versions of the Let's Go metagame, because in old Pokemon games, using candies or whatever, you could raise your stats by giving effort values to them, and the max you could raise any one particular stat was 63. But in Let's Go, they totally rebalanced it, so you can raise every stat by 200, which just makes
69.
Yeah, it makes everything kind of slow and bulky, because your attack goes up by 200, but their health and defense goes up by 200. So it's always more weighted to the defense if you have maxed out stats. So you can play that, or you can instead set it to the standard, which is where it just completely eliminates all of those effort values and sets everyone to level 50. And so that feels much more like a traditional, sort of Pokemon metagame. It's, much more faster paced. So I've been building a team like that of all shinies, and I've got over 20 shinies at this point.
I'm so bad at shiny hunting.
They've made
Everyone
it
else is so
way
much better than
easier
me.
in this game, though. It still takes a while, but it's way easier than it's ever been.
I might have to get the game just so I can get some shinies.
Yeah, so if you do like everything possible to boost your chances of getting a shiny, it's like I think it's like a 1 out of 275 chance or something that any individual Pokemon you encounter will be a shiny.
Those are not bad.
Yeah, because it used to
easy.
be
It's almost
used to
too
be like
easy.
1 out of 8,000. So, all right, so that's 2018. And unlike 2018, Nintendo actually has a ton of games already announced for 2019. And, presumably there's more that we don't know about yet, because, we've heard all these rumors about a Nintendo Direct, and obviously they're going to, have to have something to announce at E3. But just with games we already know are coming out in 2019, we got a pretty good list here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of rapid fire read through them, and then we'll just sort of go around the horn and talk about some of the games that we're most excited for. So we've got New Super Mario Bros. U and Luigi Deluxe, starring Knuckles the Echidna with Dante from Devil May Cry. That's out now. That pretty much just came out a few days ago. And we have Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. At the time of recording, that is not out quite yet, but it's coming out very soon, so it might be out by the time this gets posted, depending on how long I take to edit this. And then we have Yoshi's Crafted World, which is just recently given a release date of March 29th. So that's sneaking in just before the fiscal year ends. And remember, Nintendo's trying to hit that 20 million Switches sold by March 31st number. So that's a nice little last-second entry to pad the books there.
I always wonder what it means when they slide these, like, sort of softball-y games and at the end of a fiscal year. Like, do they think that they're going to pad the numbers enough to give them a boost? Do they want to shove these games at the end of a fiscal year so their sales don't get scrutinized too much? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know with Yoshi, Nintendo says that they see it as a game that's really good at attracting female customers. So I don't know if they're just hoping to sort of branch out a little more in 2019. But yeah, that's what they've chosen to make their last game of the year there.
Yeah, it is about time for that other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
So
that's the last game that we have a release date for. But we know that Fire Emblem Three Houses is planned to launch sometime in the spring.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. And then we've also got an unnamed Animal Crossing in the works. We got Luigi's Mansion 3. There's Daemon X Machina. There's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which, what a get. I'm still shocked at that being exclusive. And then, like we mentioned a little earlier, Yokai Watch 4 is coming. I'm trying to think. Is it launched in Japan yet, or is it still waiting there, too?
Man, they're probably by like Yokai Watch 24 out in Japan by now. Those things come like every month.
They really flooded the market there for a while.
Yeah.
Let's do some on-the-fly research.
I feel like it was supposed to launch in late 2018 and got delayed. I don't think it's out quite yet.
Spring 2019 release date in Japan.
Yeah. So that'll probably come a little later to the West, maybe like fall or winter 2019. And then the last one that we know for sure is coming in 2019 is the core RPG Pokemon title. That's supposed to come sometime in the holiday season, which probably means the week before Black Friday. That's typically when the big game drops.
Oh my god.
That seems to be the Pokemon slot now.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty effective. And then we also
might even say super effective.
Yeah. And then we also have a handful of games that are not confirmed for 2019, but they're confirmed to be in the works, and they've been in development for quite a while for all of them. And that's Metroid Prime 4, which pretty recently someone, I want to say it was Reggie Fils-Aimé, Nintendo of America's president, but someone at Nintendo pretty recently said that it is pretty far along in development, that it's going pretty well. And then there's Bayonetta 3, which I think is probably a little earlier in development. Not holding my breath out for 2019 on that one, but...
Sigh.
Yeah, you'll have to wait. And then there's Shin Megami Tensei 5. That's been in the works for a long time, but also Shin Megami Tensei games tend to take a while, so, flip a coin, who knows. And then the last one is Pikmin 4, which we were told was almost complete like 5 or 6 years ago, so who knows with that one. We all thought that was coming out on Wii U, so...
Maybe Pikmin 4 is just a simulation that we're all living in right now.
We are.
Maybe it's already out, but it's on the Vita, and we just don't notice.
Pikmin 4 is actually the Switch to Switch 2.0 transfer app.
Pikmin 4 is really the friends that we made along the way.
Pikmin 4 is exclusive to Soldier Game handheld.
Well, I think we've already decided what our Game of the Year 2019 is. I don't know if we need to have the rest of this discussion.
Oh my god.
It's Pikmin 4. I see a lot of people saying that 2019 feels more stacked than 2018. And personally, I'm not feeling that way. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. I know there weren't a ton of like big single player games that Nintendo put out in 2018, but I feel like the variety that they had on offer struck a better chord with me than just a bunch more like the usual suspects that you would expect, like Yoshi and Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing and Luigi's Mansion. Yeah,
I feel like there's a lot more games coming out this year, but none of them are going to be as big of sellers as the big 3 or 2.5, I guess, that launched at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So the Pokemon Core RPG could be, but obviously a lot of people
I'd say
already
Pokemon
bought Let's
Core
Go.
RPG,
so.
Yeah.
Pokemon Core RPG will outsell Pokemon Let's Go, almost certainly.
Yeah. But
like
in terms of the new
seems...
fans that it brings in,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And a lot of the stuff that they're releasing this year seems like a less soft analog to stuff that released last year in terms of like sales potential.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their B team.
Yeah.
Like there's no Mario except for, the re-release. There's no Zelda.
But I also
no
have
Smash Brothers, but they've got Yoshi and Fire Emblem and Luigi's Mansion and stuff. B team.
Yeah, like no, I'm not saying that I'm not like interested in any of these titles. It just doesn't feel like a real banner year yet. And I have to acknowledge that it's still January, so there's lots of time for them to fill out the calendar. Like I'm not saying that won't happen, but I don't know how we get the conclusion that 2019 is just going to be this packed year, at least for first party titles.
So I think Animal Crossing is definitely going to be a system seller, especially in Japan.
Of course.
And maybe Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I know a lot of people that love that franchise and never really got into it myself, but that as an exclusive at a time when Marvel is just knocking everything out of the park and dominating headlines, I think that could be really good. And like you said, the Pokemon Core RPG, it'll bring some people in, but a lot of those people already bought the Switch for Let's Go, so I don't know if it'll be as big of a hardware driver, but it should sell more in terms of software.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then the rest, I'd say the rest are all a lot more niche. They'll each bring in some audiences, but I don't think any of the other ones are really like you have to go out and buy a Switch for this game like a Smash Bros. Was.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of them have like an audience that's very important either, if that makes sense. Like it's not like a Metroid Prime where even if Metroid Prime isn't a big seller, the kind of buyer who buys a Metroid Prime or rather the size of the Metroid audience as a ratio to the kind of buyer who buys Metroid Prime, like, means that those people will go on probably to buy a lot more games.
Right, you're probably, for lack of a better term, a little more of a core player if you're buying a Prime game, because those games only sell like 1 to 2 million, but a lot of them are people who've been playing Metroid for years and years and years, and you know they've been holding out for
seasoned
that.
gamers who are interested in a Metroid game.
Sure. So if Metroid Prime ends up coming in 2019, I think that instantly becomes the game that I'm most excited for and most looking forward to.
Yep.
And you know, we also heard rumors a while back, it's probably been about a year now, but there were rumors that a 2D or 2D-ish Metroid was in the early like planning stages for Switch. So if that's the case, I if we get like a sequel to Fusion, if we get the long lost Metroid Dread, or at least something to replace it, I will be extremely happy for that.
Well, of this list, right off the bat, I'd say Fire Emblem is speaking to me because I love Fire Emblem a lot. Pokemon, obviously, is going to make my head explode, so I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm going to put it at the back of my head so I don't die thinking about like the Pokemon coming later this year. Guys, like, the next Nintendo Direct could show off new Pokemon, and I would probably, like, just vomit, like, happiness.
I'm currently pressing F to pay respects.
Press F to pay respects because I'm probably going to die. I'm also a big Marvel fan. Big fan of the Ultimate Alliance series. I hope that all of my favorite characters get in. If they don't, I'm probably going to cry, but, you know, that's just me being terrible. And Bayonetta 3 is also pretty amazing, but that's not going to come out until Death Stranding comes out, so I'm not
I'm going to sort of deviate from the list a little bit and say that the games I'm most excited for are actually multi-platform games.
Okay.
This year.
Cheater.
I'm really excited for all the Final Fantasy ports.
Yeah.
They picked all, like I said last time we talked about them, they really picked all the ones that I would have wanted, so I feel a little selfish in saying that. I'm also stoked for the Crash Team Racing port. My wife is super into Crash Team Racing. I am super interested in playing a Mario Kart game that's not Mario Kart. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up with a PlayStation, so I don't have the nostalgia for CTR that she does. But that game looks great, and I really loved all the Activision Crash and Spyro ports so far. So I'm very excited to see that one come to fruition. I'm also kind of interested in trying Dragon's Dogma. I bought it on PS3, like on impulse, because it was like $5, and then decided that I didn't want to put the time into it on PS3 since PS4 was about to come out.
Tragic.
Had just come out. And then Switch got announced, and then I was like, there's no reason for me to rebuy Dragon's Dogma on PS4 since it'll probably come to Switch, and lo and behold, here it is.
You're getting pretty good at predicting this, like, very Japanese games showing up on Switch.
Is Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming to Switch?
Probably.
If it's an RPG, it's probably a Japanese RPG. It's just going to be...
Yeah, well, I mean, especially since, Vita, rest in peace, and since Sony hasn't really announced any kind of replacement, it's like JRPGs are awesome on handhelds, and that's really your only option at this point if you want to have a, other than 3DS, which is super old tech and, not HD and obviously waning in terms of its potential. So it's like, yeah, if you have an RPG and you want to get it out there, you'd be dumb not to put it on Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad, actually, that it's like all the really big high-profile ports seem to be RPGs or like Fortnite-esque free-to-play shooters.
I have a counter to that.
See more.
I am super excited for Resident Evil 4 on Switch.
Oh, yeah, Resident
Evil. I know that's not exactly up your alley, but I've been, honestly, since the day Switch launched, I've been begging for it. Resident Evil Revelations is one of my favorite games of all time, and 4 is pretty similar in terms of its gameplay, like its balance between the survival horror and the action elements. Like after 4, the series got too actiony for me, and before 4, it was too clunky and tanky for me. So 4 and Revelations are that perfect balance for me. And now to be able to play that like at home or on the go with standard controls or motion controls, like that's perfect for me.
And they're bringing Resident Evil 0 too, right?
5 and 6 for sure. I can't remember if they're doing 0.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, I know 4,
like
5, and 6 for sure are.
Yeah, I may finally actually dip my toes into that franchise this year. Mm-hmm. We'll see. The only Resident Evil I've ever played was the demo of Revelations on 3DS.
Okay.
That's it. That's my experience. So I don't know. We'll see what the release schedule looks like for this year, and if I've got room for it, I'll cram at least one of those in.
Yeah. So with that, it's with 4, it's the same scenario for me as Okami was, where Switch is just clearly just the best version, just because of how many options in terms of control and play it at home or on the go. And with Okami, I never played it before Switch, so I held out and got it on the perfect platform. 4, I've already beaten on PC and Wii, but now I get both of those versions combined, plus the ability to play on the go.
Yeah, now that you mentioned Okami, you've reminded me. I've been really impressed with Capcom's ports to Switch so far in terms of their actual usage of the features.
Yeah, maybe if they can just release a new game once in a while, that'd be good too.
Yeah, that would also be nice.
Yeah, I guess retroactively for our 2018 discussion, I should definitely say I put in 70 hours into Okami maybe, and I had never played it before. So even though it's a decade-old game, to me it was pretty much brand new, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
I'm replaying it for the first time since 2009, and I'm about a third of the way through. I just fought Orochi the first time.
No, I was going to say, so that means you already beat the game and then found out there's another game.
Yeah, I beat the first Okami game, and now I'm moving on to the second one. Yeah. But yeah, as I look at this list and as I even think about the multi-platform stuff, what's striking to me is how little we know about what's coming in 2019. It feels like, despite how many first-party games are on this list.
Yeah, we have a lot of names and not a whole lot of trailers or press releases to go with them.
Yeah, and it feels like we have a pretty clear idea of what's coming till about April or so, and then after that, it's just a giant question mark.
Yeah,
they're trying to make me explode. I need to release a new trailer right now.
As we're talking, a Luigi's Mansion 3 trailer drops.
No, honestly, I need
check
it.
Twitter.
Yeah, so that's one I'm looking forward to as well, Luigi's Mansion 3. And I don't have a lot of faith that this will happen, but I would really appreciate it if they put an HD remake of the first one on the platform as well. I was kind of disheartened when they announced a remake of it, because I haven't played it in a long time, and I didn't grow up with the GameCube, so I never actually sat down and beat it all the way through. I played it in huge chunks with friends, and I've seen all of the game at one point or another. But when they announced the remake, it was oh, perfect. Oh, 3DS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a Luigi's Mansion back in the day, and I loved playing it. But then, one of my cats died while I was playing it, and I thought it was cursed, so I stopped playing it. And so I feel as an adult, maybe I should go back to it, but since it's on the 3DS, it's why bother?
Yeah, it's hard to go back to that screen once I'm used to the beautiful Switch screen,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been my problem, too. I haven't turned on my 3DS in months.
And press F to pay respects for 3DS.
Yeah. It had a long life, so I'm not going to cry for it.
Yeah, it'll be a lowercase f. Comic Sans F.
So
there we go.
This is probably blasphemy for me to say, but I've never been a huge fan of Animal Crossing. And actually, now that I think about it, I feel like, Alex, you kind of shared my sentiments there.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's I like the idea of it, but for some reason, the way the connectivity features are executed seems like they should be more important than they are in that game. And maybe it's just because of the platforms it's been on.
Making a more social experience.
Yeah, they've never really made it the thing I want it to be, and that bums me out. And so I've played New Leaf. I got a review copy of that back in the day, and I played it for a good while, but then it just was too easy to drop off and not care and not come back.
Yeah. I picked it up, and it was the first one I'd ever bought new. I think I bought maybe the Wii one used for cheap or something. And it was fine. It was charming. It was cute. It was fun, but it fell into that category of time waster game for me. I have nothing else going on today. I'll throw on some TV, relax, and play this game. And then a month after I got it, a new Pokemon game came out. I don't remember what it would have been, maybe X and Y or something. And I was oh, I'm never gonna play Animal Crossing again, am I? I guess I'll go sell this now.
Yeah, it sucks because I find the vibe of it really appealing, the chill vibe of it, and the help your neighbors sort of theme. It's just, I really want better simultaneous connectivity.
Yeah,
it's just, yeah.
I don't want to be the guy who says give Isabelle a gun, but I feel like there's just not enough of inside of Animal Crossing to keep me motivated to play it for more than a month. Because I put in a lot of hours.
That was the other thing.
Animal Crossing
they have a lot of things they present as side activities, but then they're not And I'm not just talking about like the core stuff, like collecting stuff. I'm talking like their mini games, and the mini games I just don't find fun at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
would be another area they could improve.
Even though we're all Animal Crossing hating heretics, that's one where I think that'll be a system seller, especially in Japan. But then again, like Yoshi, that's one of the ones where Nintendo's research data shows that it's like, I think it's actually their strongest title with women. So that's another one where I think Nintendo's kind of trying to use 2019 to reach out with Switch a little bit more and maybe to attract some gamers that haven't looked at the system up till now.
Yeah, Yoshi's... I think the magic for Yoshi and female gamers is he's a very prominent and playable character that's been around for a very long time and has been cute for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of contrast with Kirby, where Kirby games don't sell nearly as well as the Mario games that Yoshi appears in. And so that's why Kirby doesn't really do that job as well. That's sort of my theory.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby's kind of had middling sales for a long time, too. But then Star Allies, I think, actually was pretty strong. But I don't even think that was necessarily because it was a great game. I think that was just the Switch effect of everyone was just gobbling up every first-party game to come out on Switch, and so it just got caught up in it.
It was the kind of game that Switch needed at the time, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really have a lot... Like, Mario Odyssey had a light co-op element, but it wasn't the kind of game that I would really say is designed to be played co-op, but whereas Kirby was, and it had been about a year since the last game that I say was really a really good co-op game, first party game on Switch, and that was Snipperclips at launch.
Mm-hmm.
So
there wasn't a whole lot of party games, and it launched well before Smash Bros. Like if it had come out like this year, a few months after Smash Bros, I feel like it would not have done as well.
I have a friend, anecdotally, who does not really play a lot of games, but had a DS as a kid, and now she is really interested in playing Kirby Star Allies through with me. She's played Overcooked and a couple other games like that with my sort of core group of friends, but like I don't really get her to play a lot of like single player adventure type games.
Overcooked stresses me out. I can't play that game. I just get upset.
If you get into a groove and you figure out what that feels like it's a high that you chase after that.
I think I just get like the end of the high where like you're coming crashing down and you end up in an alley somewhere. Like that's what playing Overcooked is like for me.
I'm gonna have to like codify. I have this like idea that there are stages of playing Overcooked, where like there's the first stage where you don't know what you're doing, and then there's the second stage where you feel like you're finally getting to realize what you're doing, and then there's like a third stage where you're close to finally doing what you're trying to do, like getting the score that you want. And then there's the part where you get really angry at everyone around you because you're not performing and you're all getting tired of playing Overcooked. And then you pull it out, even in the midst of that. But we are way off base about games coming in 2019 at this point.
Yeah, we started meandering a little bit there.
We're going backwards into 2018 again.
And we'll go to 2017 now?
Yeah.
Keep winding the clocks back. We play GameCube now.
Go back to 1985.
We have to go back, Marty.
Yes.
Yeah. So, did you guys have any other 2019 games that you're really looking forward to, or that you have kind of like specific expectations for?
I don't have a long list, like in general, not just on Switch, but on other platforms.
Yeah.
I have one game that I have on my list to buy on PS4 in 2019, and it is Kingdom Hearts 3. And everything else I've already bought that I want.
Oh, yeah.
I just bought God of War. I bought Gravity Rush 2. Like, that was my list. So far this year, I've bought New Super Mario Bros. And Tales of Vesperia on Switch. But I don't know that I expect to buy a lot more other than the first-party games. A couple late ports that are finally getting physical editions, like Celeste and Shovel Knight. And the Final Fantasy games I talked about. Like, it doesn't feel like I have a lot to look forward to yet.
Yeah, well, for me, it's going to be Kingdom Hearts, Pokemon, Fire Emblem, and Marvel Ultimate 3, and hopefully Bayonetta 3, maybe? Those are the big games that I'm looking forward to this year. So other than Kingdom Hearts 3, that's all Nintendo stuff.
I will say, though, I am planning to buy all the first-party games that they've announced so far. So Yoshi, Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, and probably Pokemon.
Honestly, like, Switch has me so broke. I've been buying at a much faster rate than this console than any other before.
I bought 40 games last year.
Yeah, I have around 40 total, I think, and a lot of them are indie games. It's not like I'm shelling out $60 left and right.
That helps a lot.
Like just over the past like 2 weeks, I bought a bunch of games just because I happened to be flipping through like the eShop sales or whatever. I'm like, oh, what's this game? Doesn't look that great, but it's literally on sale for a penny. Grab, like,
yeah. I'm a physical snob too, so I pay way more than most people do for a lot of the indie games.
Yeah.
Like Celeste, I think I'm paying $40.
Yeah,
$40.
Maybe even $50.
It's free on Xbox Live right now. You're paying $40 for it?
I mean, I don't have an Xbox.
Oh, right. I'm the only person with an Xbox in America. I forgot.
No, America's the only place in the world where people own Xboxes.
Yeah.
Let's just get that straight.
I bought physical Axiom Verge, and I think that's about the only physical indie I've bought. But
nice.
I had already bought that game twice and also gotten 2 free review copies digitally. So I've owned that game so many times over. But when I saw that they were doing the multiverse edition that comes with like a big map and like an art book and stuff and a DVD or Blu-ray or something that was like an interview with Tom Happ, the developer, I was like, oh yeah, obviously I'm supporting this. And then it ended up being like, I think 75% of the profits from that physical release went to, like, I want to say it was medical research for the condition that his young son has. So, like, the publisher came out and was like, yeah, we're just going to donate 3/4 of the profits to this. Like, well, obviously I'm supporting this now, so.
My heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it was really great. Yeah, if you ever want to, like, just cry and cry and cry, watch that documentary. It's tough. He went through a lot of hard times while making that game, but it's wonderful. So that's
it sort of shows in some of the themes of the game too.
Yeah. And then speaking of indies for 2019, I'm actually I'm in the process of reviewing a game right now. The review's done, but I can't post it till 8 a.m. tomorrow because of the embargo. So by the time this podcast goes up, the review should already be live for a few days. But I've been playing a game called Y2K, a postmodern RPG.
Oh yeah, Y2K.
Yeah, so that's been in development for almost 5 years. I actually interviewed Andrew Allenson, one of the main developers on the game, years and years and years and years ago when he was working on his very first project and had just like done a Kickstarter for it, I believe. So I've been keeping my eyes on this game since it was like in its infancy, and I've seen it like go through a whole bunch of overhauls, and I have like demos on my computer from like 3 years ago that they sent me to like, give feedback on. So yeah, I've been enjoying that quite a bit. So that's one to look forward to if you like weird trippy RPGs. It's very much sort of in the vein of Earthbound, and I hesitate to say that just because I know a million headlines are going to call it like the next Earthbound or whatever, and it really is a unique experience that is more than just that. But if you are an Earthbound fan, you'll enjoy it. It's like Earthbound. It's an RPG that's sort of set in 90s America and has kind of like a mix of like of humor and some darker themes. But it really does a whole lot of interesting things, and it separates itself from Earthbound quite a bit. So don't go into it expecting it just to be like Mother 3 or the like Mother 64 game that we never got. That may have been an inspiration for it, but it definitely becomes its own thing. So that is it's gotten me off to a strong start for indies in 2019. 2018 was a great year for indies, and I'm hoping that we continue to keep getting more and more quality games like that on Switch going forward.
Yeah.
That one's definitely on my wish list. Another thing I'll probably say to remind listeners is just because it's 2019 does not mean 2018 games stop existing.
Yeah, for sure.
There are lots of things you probably have on your wish list and skipped that will still be on the eShop and probably go on sale at some point.
Like Smash Brothers and Smash Brothers and Smash Brothers.
Like I can't stand like hearing people complain about a Switch drought. Like there was a drought on Wii U, but on Switch, like I have so many games in my backlog.
You can't have a drought when there are like 1,500 games on the Switch.
Yeah.
That's
like,
not a thing.
My only problem has been like trying to find time to play all these games that I keep buying on sale at eShop. It's like, oh man, that looks so good. Yeah. Hopefully I get to play it in 6 months when I'm done with these other 3 games I'm playing.
Oh. Tragic.
Yeah. I have like a tiered list of like things that I might get at some point, and it's got like, I don't know, like 30 games from the last couple of years.
Oh wow!
But,
you go hard.
I'm sure I'll get to maybe 10 of them, and the list will probably double in size.
Yeah, I had to clear my list and pencil in Kingdom Hearts 3, but hopefully I'll be able to finally finish Persona 5 at some point.
Oh yeah, that's coming to Switch too. Not an exclusive, so I didn't have it on my my run.
Is it?
Allegedly.
Did they actually say?
Okay.
Did they actually say it's
Allegedly.
Switch?
Officially, it has not been confirmed. But yeah,
But
there's
no way.
That's the rumor mill. I should specify that it is not officially confirmed, but
Yeah.
it's happening.
Well, I mean,
Man, if that
People
comes
said-
out on Switch right when I finish the PS3 version, putting in like 1 billion hours on that, and then they're like, "Oh, here are new features, everyone." I'm gonna be so pissed.
yeah, you're just gonna have to replay it.
Oh my god, I can't invest another 1 billion hours in that. I'll die.
Yeah, that's the other reason why I made that comment earlier about too many JRPG ports. Is like I'm kind of getting burnt out on JRPGs. Like I need other genres to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need
And
more.
yet I will still buy all the
we
Final
need
Fantasy
more
games.
battle royales.
Hard pass. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other games you want to touch on, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we covered basically everything important. We
All right.
we did bad things to Animal Crossing. We talked about our favorite games.
Yeah, we've alienated half of our listeners. It's great.
Sorry, everyone. I main Isabelle in Smash, I swear.
But yeah, I would say, despite the slow start for first-party titles, 2018 overall shaped up to be a really strong year for Switch, especially with third-party games and indies. And 2019, I think, is looking as strong, if not stronger. And depending on what we get from future Nintendo Directs and E3, who knows what surprises they have up their sleeves. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 is a real game that will release someday. So I think the future's pretty bright for Switch right now.
Yeah.
What if Retro's making another Donkey Kong Country though?
Please no. Well, on that note, I think we're good to wrap it up now. So, as always, we'll be continuing to put out episodes probably about every 2 weeks, depending on, how much news there is. If Nintendo comes out and drops a Direct next week, then maybe we'll hurry up and throw an episode together so we can stay on that hot topic. And then also tomorrow we're going to be recording another episode of Gamnesia After Dark, which is our sort of more casual podcast where we just talk about, whatever. Sony games, Microsoft games, or step outside of the gaming industry, just talk about movies we like, TV shows, what's going on in our personal lives. It's just kind of a cool place for the Gamnesia staff to hang out and for you guys to get to know us a little better. So look forward to that. Otherwise, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter if you want. I don't know why anyone would, but if you want to see me retweet anime GIFs, I'm at Erimgard, Erimgard. Alex?
You said GIF, so I have to unfollow you now.
Yeah.
You can also find me being super lazy on Twitter at Legend of Lex.
And Mark?
And I'm at Mark Ryan Kelly, all one word. I know I should have a bigger presence online, but I don't. So follow me,
But
and
you're
you'll
lazy
probably
like us.
see nothing. It's a big old blank page.
All right. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Cheers.
All right. Till next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.